The space station called Harmony's Edge floated in the darkness between stars. It was a place where different species came to talk, to trade, and sometimes to lie to each other. Today, it welcomed the delegation from the Empire, and with them came Princess. She stepped off her ship with the grace of someone born to rule. Her skin was pale blue, like a winter sky. Her silver hair floated gently around her shoulders as if she were underwater. Her eyes were large and dark, and they missed nothing. Behind her walked 12 guards in white armor, led by Commander, a giant of a man with scars on his face and suspicion in his heart. And behind them all, almost invisible, walked a human. His name was Park. He was 28 years old, average height, with black hair and a face that smiled easily. He wore a simple uniform with no medals, no decorations. The word Trainee was printed on his shoulder in small letters. He carried no visible weapons. He looked, by every measure the galaxy used, completely ordinary. Princess glanced at him once when they boarded the station. Her aide had told her about the human, a political gesture, nothing more. Earth wanted exposure to galactic diplomacy, and the Empire had agreed to take one of their people as a trainee. A small price for Earth's vote in the upcoming Trade Council. She forgot about him within seconds. Commander did not forget. He pulled aside as soon as they reached their quarters. "Listen carefully," Human said, looking down at the smaller being. "You are here because politics demanded it. You will check supply lists. You will watch empty hallways. You will stay out of the way. Do you understand?" Smiled. It was a warm smile, friendly and open. "Yes, Commander, I understand completely." Frowned. He had expected argument, or at least wounded pride. This easy acceptance bothered him in ways he could not name. He sent the human away with a wave of his hand. The days that followed were quiet. The delegation prepared for negotiations with the Dominion, a reptilian empire known throughout the galaxy for one thing: violence. They had conquered 12 star systems. They respected only strength. They smelled fear like other species smelled flowers. Princess spent her time studying reports and practicing her arguments. She was nervous, though she hid it well. They had evolved as prey animals millions of years ago. Their instincts still whispered warnings when predators came near, and they were the greatest predators the galaxy had ever seen. During this time, she occasionally noticed the human trainee. He was always there, somewhere in the background, doing the small jobs no one else wanted. He checked doors. He counted supplies. He walked the hallways late at night when everyone else slept. Once she saw him eating in the common area. She stopped and watched, curious despite herself. He was eating meat, cooked flesh from some earth animal, red and brown on his plate. He cut it with a knife and chewed it with flat teeth that seemed wrong for the task. Did not eat meat. The thought of it made her stomach turn, but ate it calmly, naturally, as if consuming dead flesh was the most normal thing in the world. He looked up and caught her watching. He smiled that easy smile and nodded politely. She walked away quickly, telling herself the cold feeling in her spine was nothing. The guards mocked him, she knew. They called him soft, weak, slow. They laughed at his smooth skin and his lack of claws. They wondered aloud what use a human could possibly be in a crisis. Never responded to the mockery. He just smiled and continued his work. On the third night, Princess could not sleep. She walked the corridors of the station, looking out at the stars, trying to calm her racing thoughts. Tomorrow they would arrive. Tomorrow everything would become dangerous. She turned a corner and stopped. Was there, standing in the shadows near an observation window. He had not seen her yet. She watched him for a moment, and what she saw made her breath catch. He was not smiling now. His face was calm, empty, focused. His eyes moved constantly, checking every shadow, every doorway, every possible hiding place. His body was still, but it was the stillness of something ready to move, like a coiled spring, like a held breath. He turned his head slightly, and she saw his eyes in the starlight. They were not the eyes of a trainee. They were not the eyes of someone soft or weak or slow. They were the eyes of something waiting. Then he noticed her and the mask returned. The smile came back, warm and friendly. "Your Highness," he said with a small bow, "trouble sleeping?" "Yes," she managed. "The negotiations tomorrow." "Try not to worry," he said gently. "Everything will be fine." She nodded and hurried away, her heart beating too fast. Behind her returned to his watch. His smile faded. His eyes grew sharp again. He had a job to do and he would do it. That was what humans did. Far away, in a warship approaching the station, an intelligence officer reviewed security footage from Harmony's Edge. He paused on an image of the human trainee. "Computer," he said, "search Earth database. Species classification, human. Subcategory, evolutionary history." He read the results twice, then a third time. His scales shifted color, a sign of deep unease. "Commander," he said into his communicator, "we may have a problem. They have a human with them." "One human," the commander laughed. "What threat is one human?" The intelligence officer looked at the screen, at the smiling face, at the eyes that promised something the smile tried to hide. "I am not certain, Commander," he said quietly, "but I think we should be careful." The commander laughed again and cut the communication. It was a mistake he would come to regret. They arrived with the subtlety of a storm. Their ship was black and sharp, like a blade cutting through space. It docked at Harmony's Edge with a heavy clang that echoed through the station. Princess stood with her delegation in the main hall, watching the airlock doors open. The first thing she felt was the smell. Produced pheromones when they wanted to frighten prey. It was a chemical message that spoke directly to the ancient parts of the brain, the parts that remembered what it meant to be hunted. Every in the room felt it. Their hearts beat faster. Their hands trembled. Some of them stepped backward without meaning to. Then they walked in. They were massive. The smallest of them stood 7 feet tall, covered in dark green scales that shifted in the light. Their eyes were yellow with black slits. Their mouths were full of teeth, rows and rows of them, designed for one purpose only. At their head walked Warlord. He was the largest, the oldest, the most decorated with scars. He moved like something that had never known fear, never known defeat. When he smiled, it was not a friendly expression. "Princess," he said, his voice deep and rough, "how pleasant to finally meet." Forced herself to stand straight. "Warlord, welcome to Harmony's Edge." The negotiations began. They did not go well. They did not negotiate like other species. They demanded, they threatened. They stood too close, breathed too heavily, showed too many teeth. It was not discussion, it was domination. Felt her resolve weakening with every hour. The smell, the presence, the constant pressure, it wore her down like water on stone. She saw her advisors struggling too. Commander's hand kept moving toward his weapon, a reflex he could barely control. Only one person in the room seemed unaffected. Stood at the back, near the door, still as a statue. He had been placed there because it was the least important position, the place for trainees and servants, but found her eyes drawn to him again and again. He was not afraid. She could see it in his posture, in his steady breathing, in the calm set of his shoulders. The pheromones washed over him like they washed over everyone else, but where they trembled, simply watched. Warlord noticed too. During a pause in the discussions, the leader let his gaze sweep across the room. It was a predator's gaze, measuring, evaluating, searching for weakness. It passed over them without stopping. They were prey, he could see that clearly. Then his eyes reached the human. Stopped. His pupils contracted into thin lines. For one heartbeat, 2 heartbeats, the most powerful predator in the room stared at the trainee in the uniform. Stared back. He did not smile, he did not blink, he did not look away. Something passed between them, something silent and ancient, a conversation that happened in the language of hunters. and then a looked away first. Nobody else noticed. The moment was too brief, too subtle, but saw it and she did not understand. Later, during a break, she watched a young warrior approach in a corridor. The warrior was testing, she knew, dominance games. He walked directly toward the human, expecting him to move aside. Did not move. The stopped inches away, towering over him, teeth exposed. "You are in my path, small thing." "Am I?" said. His voice was polite. His smile was gentle, but his feet stayed planted and his eyes never left the warrior's face. The warrior's nostrils flared. He was smelling for fear, realized, searching for the chemical signs of submission that prey always produced. He found nothing. The moment stretched. The warrior's confidence began to falter. Something was wrong. Something about this small, soft creature was wrong. Every instinct he had, millions of years of evolution, was screaming at him to be careful. "Excuse me," said pleasantly. He did not step back, he simply waited. The warrior moved aside, walked past him with a friendly nod as if nothing had happened. The warrior stood frozen, his scales slowly changing color, not understanding what he had just experienced. That evening, another human arrived on the station. Her name was Sira, and she was Earth's ambassador. She was an older woman, haired and calm-faced, who walked into the diplomatic quarters as if she owned them. She found Princess alone on a balcony. "Your Highness," Ambassador said, joining her at the railing, "how are the negotiations progressing?" "Poorly," admitted. "They are difficult." "They are predators, it is their nature." The ambassador paused. "I noticed you watching our trainee today." "Stiffened, he is unusual." "Is he?" Ambassador smiled slightly. "We thought he was quite ordinary by our standards." "He does not fear, though." "No, he does not." "Why?" The ambassador was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Your Highness, you think we sent you a trainee because we had no one better to send. The truth is different. We sent the trainee we could spare. Our veterans are busy elsewhere, doing things I hope you never have to learn about." "Felt cold? What do you mean?" "I mean that Park is not special, not among humans. He is ordinary, average, unremarkable." The ambassador's eyes were steady. "Think about that, Your Highness. Think about what it means that our ordinary is something that cannot understand." She left alone with her thoughts. That night the princess could not sleep. She accessed Earth's cultural database, something she had never bothered to do before. She searched for information about human evolution, human history, human nature. She found something called persistence hunting. She read how ancient humans had chased their prey across vast distances, not by speed, not by strength, but by endurance. They followed animals for hours, for days, never stopping, never resting, until their prey collapsed from exhaustion. Other predators attacked and killed quickly. Humans simply followed and followed and followed until their target could not run anymore. Sat in her darkened room, staring at the screen. She thought about Smile, about his patience, about the way he never seemed tired, never seemed hurried, never seemed to stop. She thought about being chased by something that would never, ever give up. The blood drained from her face. In his own quarters was doing push-ups in the darkness. 100, 200. He did not count. He did not need to. His body knew its limits and he was nowhere close to them. Tomorrow, the negotiations would continue. He suspected things were about to get interesting. There was the most beautiful place on Harmony's edge. It was a massive glass sphere filled with plants and water and artificial sunlight. Different species had donated pieces of their flowers that glowed, trees that sang, waters that changed color with the time of day. It was meant to be a place of peace. Tonight it was hosting a cultural exchange. Princess walked through the gathered crowd, trying to smile, trying to appear calm. Representatives from 12 species mingled beneath the artificial sky, eating strange foods and making careful conversation. The delegation stood in one corner like a patch of shadow, their presence making nearby guests drift away. Was there too, of course. He stood near a fountain, watching everything with those calm eyes. Beside him was a woman had not seen before, another human with short black hair and a military posture. They had introduced her as Lieutenant, a technical consultant. The two humans exchanged a look when they met. Just a glance, a small nod. But something passed between them, something that spoke of shared experience. Wondered what they had seen together, what they had done. She pushed the thought away and continued her rounds. The trouble started an hour later. Had wandered near the water feature, a cascading waterfall that fed into a pool of luminous fish. She was alone for a moment, enjoying the brief silence. Then a shadow fell over her. A was younger than his brother, the warlord, and far less controlled. He had been drinking victory wine all evening, and his eyes were bright with cruel amusement. He stepped too close, blocking her path. "Little princess," he said, his breath hot and foul, "all alone." His heart hammered. She could smell the threat pheromones pouring off him, could see the way his claws flexed. "Excuse me, I should return to my delegation." "Should you?" He leaned closer. "I think you should stay. I think we should talk." "Step away from her." The voice was quiet, calm, almost gentle, but it stopped a mid-sentence. Stood 3 feet away. Had not seen him approach, had not heard him move. He was simply there between her and the predator, as if he had appeared from the air itself. A's lips pulled back from his teeth. "This does not concern you, human. Walk away." "No." The word hung in the air, simple, final, absolute. A straightened to his full height, 7 feet of scaled muscle and killing instinct. He released a wave of pheromones so strong that stumbled backward, her vision blurring. It was a dominance display, the kind that made prey animals freeze in terror. Did not freeze. He smiled. It was not the warm smile had seen before. This was something else entirely, something old, something hungry. It was the smile of a creature that had spent millions of years learning how to kill things larger than itself. The smile of an endurance predator looking at prey that did not yet know it was already dead. A's scales began to shift color, first slowly, then rapidly, yellow to white, fear colors, colors his species had not shown in thousands of years. "What?" he started. Took one step forward, just one. A ran. The massive warrior turned and fled across knocking aside guests, crashing through displays, desperate to get away from the smiling human who had done nothing but look at him. The fell silent. Every species present had witnessed it. An apex predator, a conqueror of worlds, running in blind terror from a creature half his size, running from a human. Warlord pushed through the crowd, his face unreadable. He approached slowly, carefully, the way one approaches something dangerous. "Human," he said, "what are you?" Smile faded into something neutral, just a trainee warlord. "Do not lie to me." A's voice was low. "My brother has killed 100 warriors. He does not run. What did you do to him?" "Nothing." I looked at him. "Looked at him?" "Yes." The warlord was silent. Then quietly, "You're kind. You do not stop, do you? You chase until your prey falls. You wait until your enemy sleeps. You smile while you kill." Met his eyes steadily, "Only when we have to." I held his gaze for a long moment, then he stepped back. "I see," he said. "I see what you are." He walked away and noticed that for the first time, the warlord did not turn his back completely. He kept in the corner of his vision, the way prey watches a predator. The cultural exchange ended early. Later, on an observation deck, found staring out at the stars. She approached him slowly, her heart still racing. "What happened tonight?" she demanded. "What did you do?" I showed him what I am. "And what is that?" Was quiet for a moment, then he turned to face her. Your Highness, my people evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We had no claws, no scales, no venom. We were not the strongest or the fastest, but we survived. Do you know how? She shook her head. We never gave up. When something ran from us, we followed, for hours, for days. We crossed deserts and mountains and oceans. We faced predators 10 times our size, and we killed them not with strength but with patience, with persistence, with the absolute refusal to stop. He paused. They are predators. They hunt, they kill, they conquer, but they have never faced something like us, something that hunts them back, something that will chase them forever if it has to. You scared him, whispered. You scared an apex predator. Yes, his voice was soft, because he looked into my eyes and saw the truth. He saw that if I decided to hunt him, I would never stop. I would follow him across the galaxy. I would wait for years if I had to, and eventually I would find him. Shivered, that is terrifying. I know, he smiled gently, the warm smile again. That is why we try very hard to be peaceful, because we know what we are capable of. We know what happens when we stop being nice. Before could respond, alarms began to scream. Red light flooded the corridor. A mechanical voice announced, "Security breach. Hostile forces detected. All personnel to emergency stations." Smile disappeared. His eyes went flat and cold. "Stay behind me, Your Highness," he said. Somewhere in the station, weapons began to fire. The lights went red, then died. Emergency power hummed to life, casting everything in dim shadows. Princess pressed against the wall of the corridor, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Beside her, moved with silent efficiency, guiding her toward a secondary conference room. "What is happening?" she whispered. "Strike team," he replied. 12 soldiers, they boarded through the maintenance airlocks. "How do you know the number?" "I counted the breach signatures." He paused at a corner, checked both directions, then moved forward. "Commander's team engaged them near the main hall. 2 of his guards are dead, is wounded." His blood went cold. "How do you know that?" Tapped his ear, a small communication device almost invisible. "I've been listening." They reached the conference room. Inside, Lieutenant was already waiting with 3 surviving guards. The guards looked terrified, looked calm. "Situation?" asked. 12 hostiles, tactical formation, replied. "They're moving toward the diplomatic quarters. Objective is almost certainly the princess." "Reinforcements?" 30 minutes minimum." Nodded slowly. He looked around the room, the frightened guards, the princess with her wide, dark eyes, the bare walls and sealed doors. "Then I have 29 minutes more than I need." He moved to the door. Wait said, "Where are you going?" "To end this." "Alone, against 12 warriors." He paused and looked back at her. His face was calm, almost peaceful. "Your Highness, my job is to protect you. I cannot do that from inside this room." "They will kill you." "No," he smiled, not the warm smile, not the hunting smile, but something in between, something sad. "They will try." He looked at, "Keep her safe." "Always," replied. Then he was gone, slipping into the darkness like he was made of it. Moved to the door but blocked her gently. "Let him work. He is 1 man against 12. He is human," said quietly. "That is all he needs." The minutes that followed were the longest of his life. She listened to the communication channel that had connected to the room speakers. At first, there was only static and distant sounds of movement. The strike team was spreading through the station, hunting for their target. Then the reports began. "Team 3 report," silence. "Team 3 respond," more silence. "I found something," a voice confused. It is just blood on the wall. Whose blood is this?" "Stay focused, continue the search." Another minute passed. "Commander is not responding. I am going to check his position." A pause, then a scream cut short. What was that? Report, report now. It is hunting us. A new voice, younger, scared. Something is hunting us. We are the hunters. Hold formation. I cannot see it. It moves too fast. Another scream, then silence. Listened with growing horror as the strike team fell apart. These were elite warriors, trained killers, the best the Dominion had to offer. And they were dying in the dark, one by one, to something they could not see, could not catch, could not stop. There, a burst of weapons fire. I hit it, I hit, the voice cut off. Fall back, everyone fall back to the communication channel filled with chaos. Screams, gunfire, the sound of bodies falling. And underneath it all, footsteps. Calm, steady footsteps that never hurried, never slowed. Please, a voice broken with terror. Please, what do you want? A human voice replied, soft and cold, for you to stop. Then nothing. 23 minutes after he left, the door opened. Stepped inside. He was bleeding from a gash on his arm, a shallow cut that ran from elbow to wrist. His uniform was torn in several places. His breathing was slightly elevated. But he was alive. Behind him, in the corridors of Harmony's Edge, 12 warriors were not. It is done, he said simply. Stared at him, at the blood, his own and others, at the calm in his eyes, at the man who had just done the impossible. You killed them all. 7 surrendered. They are secured in a storage bay. He paused. The other 5 refused. You gave them a chance to surrender. Of course. He seemed surprised by the question. I am not a monster, Your Highness. I am a soldier. I do what I must, nothing more. Moved to his wounded arm, examining the cut. This is deep. One of them got lucky, said. I let him. He was aiming for my neck. You let him cut you. I needed to know which direction he would attack from. He shrugged slightly. Bait. Felt dizzy. You used yourself as bait. It worked. She sat down heavily on a nearby chair. Her mind was trying to process what she had heard, what she had witnessed. 12 apex predators, the most feared warriors in the galaxy, hunted down by one man in the dark. How, she whispered, how is this possible? Sat across from her, letting wrap his wound. He was quiet for a moment, thinking. Do you know why they are afraid now? He finally said. They have fought many species. Stronger species, faster species, smarter species. They won every time, because those species fought like predators, with speed, with ambush, with overwhelming force. He met her eyes. I fought like a human. I was patient. I waited. I let them spread out, let them get nervous, let their imaginations do most of my work. Then I picked them off one at a time, each kill making the survivors more afraid. By the end, they were not fighting me. They were fighting the idea of me, the unstoppable thing in the dark that would never, ever stop coming. But you could stop, said. You did stop when they surrendered. Yes. His smile returned, tired but genuine. That is the difference between humans and monsters. We can stop. We choose when to stop, but they did not know that. All they knew was that something was hunting them and it would not give up. An alarm chirped, the all-clear signal. Reinforcements had arrived. The crisis was over. Stood, wincing slightly. If you will excuse me, Your Highness, I should report to Commander. He walked to the door, then paused. Princess. Yes. The who surrendered. They will carry stories back to their people, stories about what happened here tonight. He looked back at her, and for a moment she saw something ancient in his eyes, something that had walked out of the African plains 100,000 years ago and never stopped walking. Sometimes, he said quietly, the most powerful weapon is not what you do. It is what they believe you will do. He left. Sat in the silence, surrounded by guards who stared at the door where the human had gone. Finally, one of them spoke. What are they? Remembered the database entry. Persistence hunters, a species that would follow prey forever. They are human, she said, and I think we have made a very good ally. or a very, very terrifying enemy. Morning came to Harmony's edge like a held breath releasing. The station hummed with activity. Repair crews fixed damaged corridors. Medical teams treated the wounded. Security officers documented everything with grim efficiency. And in the main conference hall, the delegations gathered once more. But everything had changed. Princess noticed it immediately. The who had swaggered and threatened just yesterday now stood quietly at their side of the table. Their pheromones were muted, almost absent. Warlord himself looked different, older somehow, smaller, though his body was the same. He looked at, who stood once again at the back of the room, and quickly looked away. "We wish to formally apologize," said, his voice lacking its previous thunder. "The attack last night was the work of rogue elements. They have been dealt with." It was a lie, and everyone knew it. The attack had been a test, a way for them to measure whether humans were truly dangerous or simply bluffing. Now they knew. "The Dominion proposes new terms," continued. He placed a data pad on the table and slid it toward. "More favorable to all parties. We believe peaceful cooperation serves everyone's interests." Picked up the pad, hiding her shock. The new terms were not just favorable, they were generous. Trade concessions, territorial agreements, mutual defense clauses, things that had never offered anyone. She looked at, he gave her a small nod. "The Empire accepts these terms in principle," she said carefully, "pending review by our council." "Of course," stood, "we will await your response." He walked past on his way out. For a moment the warlord paused, two predators inches apart. "Your species is young," said quietly so only could hear. "We have conquered for 10,000 years. We have never feared anything." "And now?" asked. Was silent. Then, "Now we know there are things in this galaxy that do not run, things that chase." He looked at the human with something that might have been respect. "We will remember this, Park. The Dominion will remember." "I hope so," replied. "I hope you remember that we prefer peace." "And if peace fails?" Smiled the warm one. "Then I hope you can run very, very far." The warlord walked away. He did not look back. Later that day, Ambassador Sira met with Princess in a private garden. Artificial flowers bloomed around them, filling the air with sweet scents that almost masked the smell of recent violence. "The treaty will be signed," said. "Better terms than we dreamed possible." "Yes." Ambassador watched a mechanical butterfly drift past. "They learned something last night." "They learned about humans." "They learned about one human. Imagine what they think we are hiding." "Considered this. Your trainee. He killed 5 elite warriors and captured 7 more, alone in the dark." She paused. "You said he was ordinary, average, unremarkable." "By our standards, yes." "Then what are your veterans like?" Ambassador smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Your Highness, I will be honest with you, is young. He has served for 6 years. Our veterans have served for 20, 30, 40 years. They have fought in wars you cannot imagine. They have walked into places that would break most species and walked out again." "And what do they do now?" "Many things. Some guard our borders. Some train the next generation. Some," she paused, "some do jobs that let people like me pretend the galaxy is a peaceful place." Felt cold despite the warm air. "Why do you hide this? Why pretend to be harmless?" "Because we want peace, Your Highness. Genuinely, truly, we want peace. We have seen enough war. We have buried enough of our children." The ambassador's voice grew soft. "Every human knows what we are capable of. Every human carries that knowledge like a weight. We smile because we are tired of fighting. We are friendly because we have learned that friends are better than enemies. And if someone threatens you, then we stop smiling." Ambassador met her eyes. "We have a saying on Earth, speak softly and carry a big stick. We are soft, Your Highness. We laugh, we joke, we make friends easily. But the stick is always there, and when we need to use it." They discovered that last night. Yes, they discovered that the friendly trainee in the uniform was the stick, and now they wonder what else we have hidden. Found in the docking bay helping load supplies onto a shuttle. He looked up as she approached and smiled, the warm smile, the real smile. Your Highness. Park, she stopped before him, uncertain how to say what she felt. I wanted to thank you for everything. I was just doing my job. Your job was to check supply lists and watch empty corridors. He laughed softly, that too. She studied him, this unremarkable man in his simple uniform, this person who had terrified apex predators with a look, this trainee who had hunted the hunters. Will I see you again? She asked. I hope so. His smile widened. Under better circumstances, perhaps, a dinner instead of a firefight. I would like that. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, then straightened, offering a small bow. Safe travels, Your Highness. May your stars be kind. And yours, Park. She walked to her ship, her guards falling in around her. At the gangway, she paused and looked back. He was already gone, vanished into the crowd like he had never been there. Just another face, just another human. She smiled despite herself and boarded the ship. As her vessel pulled away from Harmony's edge, sat in her quarters and opened her personal database. She created a new file, titled simply, Humans. She thought for a long time about what to write. Finally, she began. They smile easily and speak softly. They appear weak, slow, harmless. This is not a lie, but it is not the full truth. Humans are persistent predators. They evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day, and they survived by never giving up, never stopping, never surrendering to despair or defeat. She paused, remembering his eyes in the moment before he went into the corridors. The calm, the focus, the absolute certainty. Do not underestimate them. Do not threaten them. Do not harm those they protect. And whatever you do, do not make them chase you, because they will never stop. They will follow you across stars and centuries. They will wait for years if they must. And in the end, they will find you. She saved the file and closed her eyes. Far behind her, on Harmony's edge, stood at an observation window. Lieutenant joined him, 2 cups of coffee in her hands. Think they will remember us? She asked, passing him a cup. They will remember. He took a sip, watching the ship shrink into the distance. The galaxy always remembers the first time it meets a human. And the second time. He smiled, warm, gentle, tired. By the second time, they've usually learned to be friends. They stood together in the starlight, 2 ordinary humans, watching the universe unfold before them. Somewhere out there, they were carrying stories home. Stories about the thing in the dark that would not stop. Stories about the smiling creature that had hunted their hunters. Stories about humanity. The trainee finished his coffee and turned back to the station. There was always more work to do.